Good morning, everyone. Kevin here from Skywatcher. Welcome to another episode of the What's Up Webcast. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. We cover everything from what's up in the nighttime sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. And of course, at the end of the month, we have a special guest to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. Now, we have had a few people saying that the hour-long segments are too long, so we're just going to do it really quick. And I'm just going to let you know that there's a bunch of cool things up in the nighttime sky. You should go out and do some observing this weekend and maybe go over to the skywatcher.threadless.com and pick up some cool swag. And then other than that, that's pretty much it for the month. So since an hour is too long for you, I hope 35 seconds is good for you. So we'll see you next week. Bye. Okay, so in all honesty, we did have some people saying that an hour-long segment was too long, but that's actually how we do it here because the topics that we cover are very in-depth, and you can always scrub through the little slider at the bottom if you think it's too long. So anyway, thank you for all of those of you who are helpful here and like what we do here. Please go ahead and subscribe, leave a like on the channel. Here's what you should do. Go over here. There we go. Please go ahead and subscribe. If you have an idea for an episode, go ahead and email us at info@skywatcherusa.com. We are starting to plan the 2024 segment of the webcast and getting episodes together. We did have someone recommend how to build like a really compact travel setup, which was actually a really good idea for an episode. So we're probably going to put that into the segment. But if you do have an idea, please email us at info@skywatcherusa.com, title it What's Up, and give us an idea for next year's episodes, because we're only about 6 episodes left for the year, because we only have 3 episodes for November because of Thanksgiving. We take that week off. But anyway, let's get started for what's up in the month. If you like what you see here and you want to be more involved at Skywatcher, please go head over to skywatcherusa.com. Go up the top, hit subscribe and save. There are a bunch of sales that are actually about to start and some stuff that's actually happening right now. And all of that, you'll be up to date if you go ahead and join our email list. It also lets you know what's going on for the weekly What's Up webcast. And then all the other stuff that we feel like you should know about Skywatcher. So yeah, head over to skywatcherusa.com and go ahead and subscribe. It's today April Fool's. No, but we did have people saying the episodes were too long. So there we go. Okie doke. Let's get started. Where am I? Let's see. Before we start really quick, like I said earlier, skywatcher.threadless.com. You can head over there and get your Skywatcher swag. It goes really nice with your Skywatcher products. Or if you just want to support the channel, that's a really good way of doing it as well. So we really appreciate all of you who show up on Friday, all of you who watch it after. These episodes are recorded afterwards, so you can always go back and scrub through them if you don't want to sit through the hour. And yeah, so anyway, let's get started. So the brightest thing in the nighttime sky, of course, is the moon. I heard it's made of Gruyere. But the new moon for this month is November 13th. That is coming up, actually. That means the dark sky weekend is actually next weekend, the 11th and 12th. By the way, if you're going to be in Arizona, or if you are in Arizona, some friends of mine and local groups of Phoenix are doing the All Arizona Star Party next week. That is the East Valley Astronomy Club. I've got a lot of friends over there. I should be out there on Saturday the 11th. If you want to know more about that event, please go to East Valley Astronomy Club, or EVAC, and just title it EVAC Astronomy if you don't know their website. And the details are over on their website about how to get there. But it's near Quartzsite, Arizona. It's about a Bortle 1, Bortle 2 sky. So it should be kind of fun. Bringing out the big scopes. Woo! So yeah, we will have a good time. And hopefully you're going to get out and do some dark sky observing next weekend. But it's going to be cold, so be prepared. Now, the full moon for November is actually November 27th, and that's going to be the beaver moon. So the full moon of November is called the beaver moon because usually this is the time that beavers are building their shelters for the winter. They're harvesting all their food and preparing to get away from the cold and do what beavers do during the winter. But that is the beaver moon. Now, every full moon has multiple names, and you can go online, and there's all kinds of cool things that you can. Farmer's Almanac is actually where I go. And if you do a lot of astronomy outreach like I do, it's kind of fun to tell people the different full moon names that are out there. So if you're looking to add a little flair to your outreach programs, tell people about the folklore of the full moon. And it's interesting to see all the different cultures' names for the full moon of the month. But the main name for the full moon of November is the beaver moon. So now planets. Let's go over to Stellarium. If you don't know what Stellarium is a free planetarium app. It's actually quite nice once you figure out how the controls work. But you can do telescope control with this as well. Stellarium is what we're using today, and I did not put the constellations up. Boom and boom. There we go. If you go to a dark sky site, please don't expect to see the actual lines in the sky. I have had people at events actually ask that. But yes, these are the constellations right now, about 8 o'clock, about 7 o'clock right now in the early November skies. We still do have a chunk of the Milky Way up there. Cygnus, Aquila, and Lyra, so the summer triangle, is still hanging out right now high overhead, but by the end of the month it will be leaving the sky. But of course, right now, right after sunset, you have Saturn. Saturn looks phenomenal right now. I've been doing a lot of observing on that with various events lately, and it looks great in any size telescope. I've had a 7-inch refractor on it a lot lately, and it's mind-blowing. So Saturn is so well positioned right now, and I would highly recommend getting out there. The rings are kind of tilted just a little bit, but over the next couple of years, they're going to close up as Saturn normally does, and then they'll open up again. But Saturn's looking very nice right now, and if you've got good seeing, throw some magnification on it. Most planets, you're going to need about 100x to really get them to start to pop. But if you can push up to that 200 or even 300 power mark, there's some really good detail out there for them. So yeah, Saturn is going to be your premier planet right now. Now following Saturn, we do have Neptune. Neptune's hanging out there, a little blue ball. Neptune is kind of a hard one to see. With enough magnification, you can actually see that it is a bit of a sphere, but because it's a dark blue color, it fades into the star field that I find a lot. So it can kind of be a tough one to actually locate. Obviously, a go-to telescope will be helpful with that. But Neptune can be a bit of a challenge. Now, continuing further on, we have Jupiter. Jupiter is pretty much naked eye visible right after sunset rising in the east, and as the month progresses, will become much, much higher. But Jupiter is always a fun one to look at. Again, if you're doing planetary work, push the magnification on that scope. Like I said, 100x is about the starting point for planets. But if you have the seeing to back you up, go as high as your telescope can handle. If you can get up to that 200 or even 300 power, it can look pretty neat. And if you've got a small refractor or a small telescope, you might need some higher power eyepieces. That's what these short focal length eyepieces are for, like these 2, 2.5, 3, 4s. Those short little focal length eyepieces, while good on longer focal length instruments, are really designed for those short little telescopes to get the magnification up. But you can do some pretty good stuff on the planets. Let's see. I read that you do want some sort of filtering for planetary, mainly for wavelengths not visible. Yeah, so filters are a good thing to use for planets. And Lord Hellman in the chat actually brings up a good point. I have a set of them, and I really don't use them that often. But particular for Jupiter, if you have a polarizing filter, like the adjustable polarizer filters, those work really well because you want to knock out some of the glare. That's a really helpful filter to actually use for planetary. And let me see what other ones I didn't plan on having this conversation, but another filter that I like to use is the Botter. Hold on. What is the name of it? Oh, that's what it's called. Sorry. Okay, would be helpful if their website actually would. Great. Okay. Well, for whatever reason, Botter's website doesn't want to cooperate. So, for planetary, I don't like using color filters for planetary observing. I don't like how it shifts the color. It just looks weird. So I like, multi-use filters. So let me bring these two up real quick. These are the two that I always default to. I use them on my refractors. I use them on my big Daub. And they're actually really good to have all around because they're also really good deep sky filters as well. And once I pull them up, I will explain them a little bit more to you guys. Okay, so these are ads everywhere. These are the two filters that I like using for planetary, and I think they're a must-have for anybody who's doing any kind of observing because they're not just good for planetary, they're also good for deep sky. So the first one is the Moon and Sky Glow from Botter, or the neodymium filter. This one is really nice because it knocks down some of the glare. It does shift the tint a little bit, but it's not obnoxious. But it does help quite a bit. I like using this one for planetary. It does knock out a lot of the IR, which is nice to have, and it also cuts some of the UV as well. But then it isolates some of the wavelengths in there, as you can kind of see from this graph. Can I make it bigger? There you go. So this is what I love about Botter is they do a spectral analysis of each filter. But this filter is an awesome one to have, and it's not too spendy, but I really like that it's multi-purpose. So it does really nice on planets, and if you have a little bit of light pollution that you need to kind of cut out, the Moon and Sky Glow is a really nice one to have. I kind of think of it as a UHC light filter. So it's not as isolated as an ultra high contrast filter is, but it does help knock down some of that glare. So I recommend this one. Now, if you need a more powerful companion to go with it, I really like the Botter Contrast Booster. I have both of these filters. These are my go-to planetary filters, is the neodymium or Moon and Sky Glow from Botter and the Contrast Booster. The Contrast Booster is one of my favorite filters to use for planets. You do get a little bit of an odd color shift on it, but it really pops the detail out, particularly on like Mars, and which isn't up right now, and Jupiter. It gets rid of the glare, and that's kind of the hardest part I find about planetary is the glare that you get from some of these planets. So these two filters are really nice. I don't know that I recommend one over the other. I would say actually get both at some point, but if you have color filters and you're not a fan of them, you could ditch the color filters. And honestly, the three planetary filters I recommend are a adjustable polarizer, the Moon and Sky Glow from Botter, and then the Contrast Booster. All those are excellent for planetary, and then they all double for other applications. The polarizer is great for Venus. It's also good for the Moon. And then the Moon and Sky Glow and the Contrast Booster are great for deep sky. Now, the Contrast Booster I like to think of in a way is kind of a UHC light. So if I stair step my deep sky filters, it goes Moon and Sky Glow, Contrast Booster, UHC, O3, and H beta. Those are my collection of filters, actually ramping up into the more specific narrowband filters for visual work. So if you're looking for good filters, these are definitely worth picking up for planetary. And then some good eyepieces to magnify that a little bit. So But anyway, there's Jupiter, and then trailing Jupiter, not too far from it, is the planet Uranus. Uranus is actually a really fun planet to observe because it doesn't take much magnification to show that it's a little ball. And it's way out there. And it's because it's not a full naked eye planet. It actually is a naked eye planet if you're in a dark sky. I've seen it, but you need to have dark skies and know exactly where you're looking because it's at 7.2 magnitude right now. So it's right at the edge of visual limitations. But if you're going to a dark sky site next weekend, try to see if you can catch Uranus naked eye because it's doable. It's just faint. But it's a fun planet to do. It's a fun planet to do for outreach too because it's not typically a naked eye planet. Of course, everyone's going to make the Uranus jokes. And the new policy that I have for my outreach events is we're going to make a Uranus joke jar. So every time you make a joke, you got to put $1 in the jar. And that's a really good way to fund your next telescope purchase because you're going to get like $300 a night because of all the Uranus jokes that you've heard. So, ta-da, you're welcome. So, but anyway, those are the planets that are up right now. We've got Saturn, nice naked eye planet. Neptune's hanging out just behind Saturn. Then we have Jupiter, which is amazing. And then Uranus is a fun one too. So, but yes, those are the planets that you've got right now. All right, moving on. The sun. I hope everyone had a good time watching the eclipse last month. We had a pretty good turnout to Seoul this year for those of you who came out, and I appreciate that. So the eclipse was a good time. I hope you had a good time too. It's a warm-up for April 8th of next year. Actually, I need to tell you guys about April 8th while we're talking about this. Because if you don't have plans, you really should have plans. And I'll tell you where we're going to go for Skywatcher. So, anyway, the sun's looking good right now. It's always a fun thing to go out and observe. Let me get rid of some of these windows here. Boop. So here's the sun right now. This is for hydrogen alpha. If you type in GONG, G-O-N-G, space H alpha, it'll bring you to this page right here. And it shows you what's going up on the sun today in detail. So there's some really nice detail in hydrogen alpha if you want to see what's going on there. If you want to see what's going on in white light, maybe you don't have an H alpha filter, you can just go over to spaceweather.com and click over here. There's a sprinkling of sunspots across the disk right now. 3474 down here is pretty nice. There's a good plage detail. If you don't know what plages are, there are these like white regions around there. If you have a calcium filter, calcium K or calcium H, they really bring these out. There's a lot hanging out over here. 3472, the calcium filters would really bring that out. But over here, 3477, and there's some stuff hanging out right here on the edge here, which is probably going to be like 3470. That's 79. So that'll be like 3480 probably. There's some pretty cool stuff coming around the limb right there. So if you got a white light filter, go check it out. If you got an H alpha filter, even better. I will let you know right now, we're in a lull for solar. We just had the big annular eclipse, but now we're going to ratchet up to April 8th for the total solar eclipse that's happening next year. So if you don't have your solar equipment ready, now would be the time to do it. I don't care if it's solar glasses, white light filters, whatever, because it's going to get insane as we get towards the total eclipse in April. So if you didn't get your stuff by this month for the annular, make sure you're ready to go because April 8th is going to be the crazy one. Now, speaking of April 8th, if you don't have plans already, shame on you. You should have known. Don't be that person that's like, I didn't know it was happening. It's like Christmas the next day and I need to get a gift. No, you knew when it was. So go ahead and get it. So Skywatcher is going to be heading out to the Texas Star Party event. Now, we've looked at a variety of events. And if you're looking to rent like an Airbnb or something like that, the prices are ridiculous on the path. So this right here, from our research, is the best deal that you are going to get on the path if you don't already have it in your plans. Now, this is going to be about I think it's like 30 minutes outside of Waco. But let's see. You want to go to texasstarparty.org. This is where you would go to do the Texas Star Party, but it's not being held at the ranch for the eclipse. The eclipse that it's at Prude Ranch near Fort Davis, Texas, is not in the path for the eclipse, but they're doing a special event for the solar eclipse in April, and then May will be the normal Texas Star Party. So go to their website, go down here, click the blue button, and then it'll take you to the solar eclipse Star Party event. This is 4 days long. There's all kinds of speakers, and I know please don't be sticker shocked, because everything's going to be sticker shock. This right here is the best deal that you're going to find. So hotel rooms, it's $2,800 roughly. That covers 2 people for 4 days with food. That's awesome. So this is something that you want to look at if you're looking for a place to go for the total solar eclipse. It's like 4.5 minutes ish of totality. Highly recommend taking a look at this if you haven't done so, because things for the eclipse are evaporating. And even basic room here, I'll just let you in on what we were dealing with. So we actually had some rooms booked at just a basic hotel, like a Comfort Inn or something like that. It's probably $75 a night on a good night. For the eclipse days, we had 5 rooms booked for our team. It was $22,000 for 5 rooms for our team for like 3 days. So the prices are ridiculous right now. If you're on the path, people know that they can kind of milk it right now. So if you're looking for a good place to go that's safe, that's got dark skies, that's got good camaraderie, and it's going to have some good speakers and some presenters and stuff, check out the Texas Star Party solar event, because it's probably going to be, it's an all-around thing for astronomers. It's not open to the public, which, whatever. You have to have tickets to get in and stay. So there's no like day passes. You have to come to the event. So, but if you haven't done it, that would be my recommendation. And it's definitely worth it. I think it's only a couple hours outside of Dallas to get there. So you could fly into Dallas, drive, and we'll see you there. So anyway, figure out your plans. Now for the sun, of course, same thing. The sun's always a fun thing to look at. Please don't wait any longer to get your solar equipment. Just be prepared and ready to go. All right, meteor showers. So the big one right now is the Leonids, and that date is wrong. I'm sorry. So it'll be November 17th and 18th. But whatever. So November 17th and 18th is the Leonid meteor shower, about 50 plus per hour. So we will have a little bit of a moon to contest with, but by the time the meteor shower is actually occurring, that little crescent moon should be set. And after midnight, when meteor showers are best, that's what you want to be going for. But that's our meteor shower for the month. Comets. Now, there's a lot of comets that are kind of in the queue right now for interesting. So let's bring this up real quick. Get that out of here. Did I close the window that I needed? I wouldn't be surprised. Nope, there it is. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. So this is the website I like to use. This is cometchasing.skyhound.com. This is everything you want to know about comets. But the one everyone's been talking about right now is this Comet 12P Pons Brooks, which I have not observed yet, which I'm hoping next week at the All Arizona Star Party, it'll be nice and dark. I've got big telescopes out. Maybe we'll go after it and see what it looks like. Right now, this is actually hanging out pretty high in the sky at the moment. Let's bring the finder chart up. So you can see right near, currently it's kind of hanging out near Hercules, Lyra area. It's going to make its way down and then towards like the southern horizon. By the end of the month, we will lose it. So, but it gives you all these notes. But right now it's sitting at magnitude 8.6. So it's not naked eye visible, but it's well in range of pretty much any telescope that you're going to have. Obviously, larger telescopes are going to be more helpful, collecting that light and giving you the resolution. But, oh wait, I'm sorry. This is C2023H2. So this is another comet that's actually nice and high right now. I got them mixed up. So this is... I've got too many windows going on. There we go. I'm sorry. This is C2023H2 Lemon. This is visible in small telescopes. Comet 12P Brooks is still hanging out up there, but it's not giving me where oh, here it is. It's at 11th magnitude, so still within telescopic range of most telescopes. This one, I can't get my bearings here. Oh, that's Hercules. So this one's still kind of sitting high-ish over in the western part of the sky. But this should be an interesting one to go after. But it is 11th magnitude. But you can see all these details at cometchasing.skyhound.com. This is the website I go to look up any kind of comet. But right now we don't have anything major exciting sitting up in the sky right now, but you never know what a comet's going to do. So it's always good to be kind of aware of what comets are visible right now. They can be kind of a fun object if you're doing outreach events. Maybe you've got cameras, maybe you've got a bigger telescope to show somebody something that's not usually up. But if you want to know what comets are really good right now, you can head over to this website. They've got the finder charts and all the details. Or you can use like Sky Safari. Sky Safari is really good if you update the Minor Planet database. It shows you where the comets are and stuff like that too. So there's a lot of good options out there when it comes to comets, but there's nothing that's, big right now. But if you want to keep an eye on it, because again, you never know when a comet's going to flare or anything like that. You never know when a comet could be exciting. So, but keep an eye on it. It's a fun thing to do. That's why we throw it into the queue every month, just so you're kind of aware of what's going on. Deep sky. Now, we're in this transition time right now between summer and autumn in the sky. Obviously, we're officially in autumn, but there's all kinds of objects that are still visible. A lot of those low southern targets that were in Scorpio and Sagittarius, they're gone for the season. But we still have the Cygnus region is up there. So there's some stuff that you can still get. But one that I've never thrown in here before, it's actually my favorite star to observe. And there's a whole collection of these around the sky. And if you've never actually taken the time to look at carbon stars, I highly recommend them. They're really neat stars. And I'm not a big star fan. Like, I'm not into binary stars or anything like that. But carbon stars are very cool because they look like rubies that are just amongst a sea of diamonds. And they vary quite a bit because most of the time they are a variable star. But T Lyrae is one of the reddest stars visible in the northern hemisphere, and it's still really well situated right now because Lyra is fairly high in the sky, especially in the early evening. But it's not far from the bright star Vega. Let me see if this will actually bring it up. There we go. It actually did it. Some apps have a hard time with it, but T Lyrae is situated almost evenly the opposite side of Vega from the double-double. If you're into binary stars, the double-double over here is a cool set because it's two sets of binaries. But then there's Vega, and then you have T Lyrae, which is hanging out over here. Now, T Lyrae it's not a great naked eye object, but it's super red. It's impressively red. I find smaller apertures tend to do a better job at it. Like if you have a big daub and you throw it on it, it's still red, but it looks more orange. Where if you've got like a 4 to 8 inch telescope, it just seems to pop. But it's red like a Coke can. It's really impressive. It's easy from any sky. You don't need any filters because it's a star. You can do it in town, dark sky. Filters don't matter. But it's a great outreach target as well because it's a star. And it's just something different from the nebulas and stuff like that up there. But it's a very impressive object to look at. And if you're imaging it, it takes like no time at all. I think this is like 5 1-minute exposures off of a 7-inch refractor. So it's not a difficult thing to actually check out. So T Lyrae is an awesome star. There's a very nice collection. I'm going to try and... this was done a long time ago. Let me see if I can find this list. Because Sky and Telescope did a really nice list of carbon stars in one of their magazines. I think this is it. It was like 10 years ago. Yeah, nearly 10 years ago. But if you go over there, just type in Sky and Telescope carbon stars, and they've got a really nice write-up on what they are. They're really interesting to talk about the formation and the lifestyle of stars. If you're doing a lot of outreach, you can kind of tell about where the star is in its life. But then they have a really nice list of very nice red stars here. You can see T Lyrae is right at the top of the list. So carbon stars are a really fun thing to go after. If you want to do something from the backyard that's a little different, it's a little bit more obtainable, and it doesn't require any fancy stuff. You just got to go out and give it a shot. But that is T Lyrae in the constellation of Lyra, and it's a carbon star. Now M15's up in Pegasus. It's actually at the tip of the horse's head up in Pegasus, about 35,000 light years away. This is a really easy object. Globular clusters are a great thing to do visually because they're fairly easy to do because they're nice and dense and fairly bright. Dark skies visually will always help. Obviously, more aperture always helps because you get more resolution into the cluster. But in town, if you're imaging them, you don't really need any major filters because there's not a lot of diffuse detail inside of them. So you could chuck a light pollution filter into the optical chain, and it'll just knock out some of the gradient that you have to deal with if you're imaging in town. Dark skies, they work well. You can do LRGB. You don't need a lot of luminance on these. Almost no luminance at all if you don't need it. This was with an Esprit 150 with a ZWO 6200 one-shot color. And if you're in a dark sky site, what impressed me about this particular shot, because I didn't know it was there, was the integrated flux nebula that's in the region, which is all this like celestial cirrus that's hanging out in here. So if you've got one of these modern cameras like a 533 or a 571, which is a ZWO 2600, or a 455, which is the full frames, you might be getting some of this detail. It's pretty impressive what these low noise cameras can do. But that's M15. M15 is very easy to find. It's a good one for outreach. It's a good one from the backyard. And if you're imaging, it's an easy thing to shoot. For the T Lyrae double-double, would a 2.5 millimeter eyepiece and a 80 millimeter refractor be enough to resolve it? I have no idea. I'd have to kind of sit and figure that math out. I would just say go out and do it. And if it doesn't work, then now you know. But yeah, give it a shot. Andromeda M31, our nearest spiral galaxy, 2.5 million light years away. Great in dark skies. You can see it in light polluted skies and, minor telescopes, something between that up to about 8-inch in aperture. Larger aperture is going to help. It wasn't until I got my 16-inch Dobbs, a long time ago, is when I could actually see the dark lanes from kind of a average sky. Dark skies, you can do that. But one thing I would mention here, and I am not one of these observers. I am not a binocular observer. I have binoculars. I really don't use them. But one of the best views of the Andromeda Galaxy I've ever seen was in a pair of like 50 millimeter binoculars. And you really don't appreciate how big Andromeda sits in the sky unless you use a wide field set of optics like binoculars. So if you're going out to some dark sky sites, bring the binoculars out and actually take a look at Andromeda, because it's really impressive just how expansive the galaxy is. It's pretty neat, and pictures just don't do it justice. Like, to be able to see it is pretty cool. So one of the best ways to observe Andromeda from a darker location is binoculars, and you'll be impressed with just how big it actually is. Now, you can do it visually from the backyard. It looks great in dark skies. More aperture is always helpful, but the more aperture tends to mean longer focal length. So longer focal length means a smaller field of view. So most of the galaxy is going to extend beyond the field of view of most telescopes. For imaging, one-shot color is great. Monochrome is great. If you're doing monochrome, add some H-alpha in there, because there's all kinds of star-forming regions, which are known as H2 regions, that will pop. And they look really good if you do some H-alpha blending in there. So give that a shot. But Andromeda is a fantastic target right now. It looks good in high resolution if you want to like piece it together, or it looks good in wide field. It's a very forgiving object, and it's a great galaxy to become acquainted with if you're new to imaging. Now, another one is the Sharpless catalog. I love dusty, obscure, dark stuff. And the Cave Nebula is one of those. This is in Cepheus. And if you don't know about Cepheus, Cepheus is basically a dust bowl of a constellation. It's just filled with dust and gas and all these really gritty, dark nebulas. It's awesome. So Sharpless 155, the Cave Nebula. If you look it up in Sky Safari, it's usually Sharpless is normally listed as SH2 dash, whatever the line is. So give that a go. 2,400 light years away. The only way I have ever been able to see this nebula visually is with my 28-inch Dob, an H-alpha imaging filter, a 6 nanometer, and a night vision eyepiece. It's not really a visual target. You could, if you don't have night vision, you need a big scope and probably like an H beta filter because it's mostly hydrogen. And an H beta filter is going to show the same details as H alpha, but the human eye can't see H alpha, so you need to use H beta if you want to use it visually. But this is a very difficult target to do visually. Imaging, on the other hand, easy target, and it's very heavy in hydrogen. So the dual band filters like an Antlia dual HA03 or a narrow band like what you see here. This is just a stack of H alpha images. I think this is the Esprit 150 as well, native with a 455 camera full frame. And it's a 5 nanometer H alpha filter that we have. And the detail is very impressive, but you could do Hubble palette on this. You could do a bicolor image, or you could do my favorite, which is just black and white, but just brings the detail out. But that's the Cave Nebula, and that is sitting up in Cepheus, a very, very cool constellation with all kinds of just interesting stuff up in there. So give that a go. You can do this from your backyard. If you have a monochrome camera, just put the H-alpha filter in there, and it'll cut right through the light pollution. And if you're trying to figure out what H-alpha filter you need for a light polluted sky, I would say as narrow as you could afford. Probably 7 nanometer at the widest. And if you could go narrower, that's better. I really like 5 or 6 nanometer H-alphas. I think that's enough to really cut out most of it. 3 nanometers are very nice, but it gets hard to focus and stuff like that with it. So a 5 is a nice balance for everything. Now, one of my favorite targets in the sky is this set of objects, which is called the Ghost of Cassiopeia, or the Gamma Cass Nebula, or IC 59 and 63. They're these really ghostly objects. I love objects that sit next to a bright star. I just like the contrast you get from a bright star and this like ghostly hue over here. It's not very far away either, 610 light years. This is visually doable. I've done it without filters, but it was really high in the sky, and we were using a C14, and it worked remarkably well, but you had to move the telescope to actually kind of see what moved with the field. So if you're on a target and you don't know if it's quite there, first try the averted vision technique where you don't look directly at it, and then to see if your eye can detect what's a part of the field, move the telescope. And whatever moves with the field, you'll catch it pretty quickly. And once you kind of lock onto these, it's there. Maybe an H beta filter will help pop it out a little bit. Maybe a UHC. There's not a lot of O3 in this object. So if you had to use a filter to see, probably UHC is what I would go for. But I didn't use a filter for it, and several friends of mine saw it too. So about a 12-inch telescope or bigger is very helpful. Imaging-wise, one-shot color is great. It really reacts well to narrowband. It's a great bicolor image where you can do HAO3. It's a really good target for that. But it's a beautiful nebula, and it is very expansive. It goes way further than you think it does. So if you have a wider field optic, it's a good fit for that as well. So give that a go. Going back to Cepheus, we have the Iris Nebula. This is one of those dark and dusty nebulas. This is actually probably one of the easiest nebulas in Cepheus. 1,300 light years away, dark skies, larger apertures, because for a visual, you're really just kind of looking for the internal reflection portion. Imaging-wise, this is pretty much a dark/reflection nebula. There are no filters that will help you here. All you can do is just time. If you're doing monochrome, very deep luminance is going to help you pop the detail out. One-shot color, just pound away at it. Lots of time, lots of exposure time, which is pretty much everything in Cepheus at this point. So that's something to take a look at. And right next door to that is this guy right here, VDB 141, or the Ghost Nebula. This is also in Cepheus. It's very close to the Iris Nebula. Only about 1,400 light years away. I have never tried to observe this. Maybe I'll try it next weekend, but I have to imagine it's quite difficult. And the only thing that you're going to be looking for is this really bright reflection area. So I have to imagine you're going to, and it's small. This nebula is very small. But large aperture is really what you're going to need here. Just like the other nebula, the Iris Nebula, because this is a molecular cloud, very dark, dusty object, luminance, lots of exposure time and luminance. If you have a fast telescope like a Hyperstar or a Rasa, that's going to help you as well. But exposure time is all you can do with these. No filter is good for here. Pinwheel, M33, not far from Andromeda, kind of the opposite side of where Andromeda actually is, 2.7 million light years. This one's very diffuse. It doesn't pop very well. It's not a good in-town object to view. You probably see it as a very wispy, ghosty looking thing. And a dark sky site, a decent aperture telescope, like 10, 12 inch or bigger, you'll probably see it, but again, remember, it's diffuse. It doesn't just pop out very well. So larger apertures help. Imaging-wise, it's a pretty easy object to go, but it's very grainy in its outer arms. There's a lot of star detail in here and clusters, but there's also a lot of H2 regions, so add H alpha. This is an H alpha frame. You can see how much stuff is sitting in there. And then you would blend this in, and it really kind of brings out these ruby details inside of the galaxy itself. But you can see all that H2 star-forming regions that are sitting in there. So if you've got a monochrome camera, try the H-alpha with M33. It's kind of a must. You could try it with one-shot color with like a dual band, but you'll have to kind of figure out how to blend the channels. It'll be a little bit harder to do there. All right, now let's get to the nitty-gritty. Totem, target of the month. Now, it's November. We've got 2 months left of 2023, and then we're going to unveil the 2024 patch. So that should be cool. We do have everybody already set up on the list to receive the patches for this past month for October. But let's get into November. So these are the rules. It all stays the same. We need your name. We need your equipment, images, specifications, mailing address. And for mailing, we only do the US and Canada right now. I'm sorry. And we will need some kind of FIT or RAW file to know that you actually did it at the time. And this is what you'll get. The Totem 2023 patch. And like I said, we'll be probably towards the end of December, we'll be showing off the new 2024 patches. Hopefully they should be kind of cool. Now, October's Totem target was Mayal 2. Male 2 is the brightest globular cluster in Andromeda, also known as G1. It's a bit of a challenge. This was the best image that I have of it. This was shot from my backyard with an EvoStar 150. Very, very small. And then there's the Hubble picture of it, which Hubble does very well. But I had some friends of mine who work at the University of Arizona, and they just got a brand new fancy plane wave 1 meter. I had them chuck it on there. So this is what Mayall 2 actually looks like with a 1 meter plane wave. You can see up here it's a bit diffuse. And we actually picked up Mayall 3, which is there too. So 2-for-1 deal. But Mayall 2 is right there. You can see how much brighter Mayall 2 is over Mayall 3. But I wanted to see what a big telescope could actually do with it. And you can see even in a 1 meter or 40-inch telescope, it's still a bit tricky because it's small. But there you go. So that is thanks to Dr. Vishnu Reddy and his team for letting us actually use the telescope to capture. They did it. I just asked for it. So, but there you go. Now, a lot of you guys did really good on this target. And this is something you can actually do from home. It's not anything fancy. It's just a lot of people don't know it's there, and it's really tiny. But Sean's I really like because he's got that focal length. So you can see right here, there is Mayall 2 right there. He probably has Mayall 3 hiding in there somewhere, but you'll have to use the 1 meter image to kind of figure. It's going to bug me now. Now I'm going to want to know. So it sits just above the galaxy, and it's bright star, then jump. So let's see right there. That's Mayall 3. So nice job, Sean. You got 2. So there's Mayall 2 is right there, right above my cursor. And then Mayall 3 is right there. But again, these are small. So you guys all did very nice work. This is a very challenging little target, and it very much looks stellar. But if you look hard, it's not a difficult one to actually find. You just got to know where it's sitting. So there it is in this shot right there. A 92 millimeter refractor, really, really tiny. But yeah, this was a challenging target. It's definitely off the beaten path, but it's a fun one to go after. And now that you know it's there, you can do it visually in like a 10-inch telescope. It's not incredibly difficult. But it's a fun one to go after. And now you're looking at a globular cluster in another galaxy. So that's kind of cool, isn't it? So yeah, that's pretty much it for October. Now, November, we're going to go difficult. So this is November's target right here. We're doing VDB1, also known as LBN 578. This is the bright star Calf in Cassiopeia. Now, there's a couple objects in this particular region. VDB1 is this blue reflection nebula out there, which is just off the bright star Calf. And then right next to it is a darker region called LDN 1265, which is this really cool looping dark reflection thing going on up there. So there's some pretty neat stuff that's actually occurring in this region, but that's going to be your totem target for November. And I don't know how you guys are going to do on it. It's going to be interesting because you have a really bright star, and then you've got this reflection and dark nebula in there. So all I could really say, because filters, you're not going to be able to do filters much here. You could probably use like a light pollution filter to subdue it, but I'll be curious to see what you guys get from town. Better yet, dark skies for this particular target. And if you are doing monochrome, the trick here is a lot of luminance. But you have to make sure that your telescope can handle a bright star in the field, because Calf is a naked eye star. If you have a Newtonian, I expect to see some pretty cool diffraction spikes off this shot here as well. So, but yeah, that is our target of the month, VDB1, or also LBN 578, right next to the bright star Calf. And if you can get LDN 1265 right next door, awesome. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this week. If you like what you see here, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave a like on a video. If you have an idea for next year's episodes, please email us at info@skywatcherusa.com. Title it What's Up. But that is pretty much it for November Night Skies. If you want to support the channel, please go ahead and hang out and check out the skywatcher.threadless.com store. We've got all kinds of cool swag on there. There's a lot of cool sales that are going on right now for Skywatcher as well. So you can go over to skywatcherusa.com and see what's all on sale there. Now, next week, we're talking about our tabletop dobs. Tabletop dobs are a fantastic little holiday gift, but they're also just a fun little telescope to have around. And we're going to go deep diving on our Heritage series and the Virtuoso GTIs. So that'll be a fun one for next week. So thank you very much. Appreciate you guys watching. Clear skies, and I hope you have a great weekend, and we will see you guys next week. Take care, everyone. See ya. Bye.